What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Career Mode. This is episode number 23, and today, guys, if you would like another episode of Career Mode, then get this video to 500 likes. Yes, I know that's a lot to ask for, but if you can get this video to 500 likes, I will upload another episode of Career Mode later on tonight. So, yeah, basically, if you want another episode of Career Mode today, get this video to 500 likes, and another one will be up later on this evening. But anyway, we start today's episode off, potentially the first of two episodes today. We start today's episode off with a transfer coming in for Nicky Bailey. We counter-offered it. It was from Wigan. We asked for a bit more money, and like, Bailey's a decent player, but he's starting to decrease in stats now, and if we can get some money for him, that would be great as we try and sort of transition the side and sort of build a younger side for the future. We also decided to counter that for 325 grand, and Wigan said yes, they've matched it, and we also decided to offer Marcos Lopez a short-term deal, as you see Nicky Bailey get sold here. The reason I did a short-term loan deal and not a full season loan deal for Marcos Lopez is because his contract is expiring at the end of the season, and he's going to be a reserve midfielder anyway. If we can get this guy in and pick him up on a free agent for next season, I think that would work quite well. So we're not really going to use Marcos Lopez that much, but we've got him for the time being, and he'll return back to Man City after about 3 months, and once that happens, we can try and sign him in January for next season, you know, because he's a decent player. He's only got 41 stamina, which kind of sucks, but he's a decent player, and I think, to be honest, getting him on a free agent for next season would be better than having him on a full season loan and then watching him return to Man City and inevitably sign a new contract. So that's the thinking behind that deal. It may seem like a bit of a stupid deal, and it'll be better to get a full season loan, but to be honest, we're not going to use him that much. Our CM area is quite strong anyway, and I think that will probably be better for us long term. You know, not for short term, not for the season, but for the rest of the series, it'll be better because we'll have him on a free, but instead of having to pay him, you know, instead of having to pay Man City some money, we'll have him for a free. But anyway, we decided to look for some new strikers again. The reason, I know we've picked up Ngu and Ojo and Akpom as well, but the reason being is because I'm not really utterly convinced by you know, Michael Ngu as a Premier League striker. I'm not completely convinced Ojo is going to get us too many goals, and I would like to sign a better striker and plus shift on Andy Keogh, because although he's the only player to score this season in the league, I don't really think he's going to be scoring too many goals either. So I was looking down the list of players. Darren Mattix is someone I've had before, and he was pretty decent for us. Not sure how we'll do in FIFA 14, but in FIFA 13 he was really good and really quick. Gabby Bonglahor as well. The first player you saw me going for was Jean-Marie Dongu, I think is how you say his surname, of Barcelona. And yeah, like, these players are sort of quick players, if you know what I mean. Quick players that will sort of burst onto the scene, and we could probably use these guys as impact subs if we need to be honest. But we'll have to wait and see what the clubs say for that. We were just about to go into transfer deadline day, so we'll wait and see what the clubs say. And to be honest, if we can just pick up a sort of a bench striker, you know, to replace Andy Keogh, someone that's actually got some pace and we can bring on in a late game situation, then I'll be happy with that, you know. So we'll have to wait and see what the clubs say. But anyway, the first game of today's episode was against Manchester United here at Old Trafford, and for the first time we get to see just how awesome the next gen animations are, because, well, the real stadium animations, because this looks really good, doesn't it? The sort of the cameras hovering over the stadium and outside it, that's really cool. And yeah, we do take on Manchester United here at Old Trafford, and of course we haven't we got 1 point in our last game against Palace, but we're yet to get a win in the Premier League in our first 2 games. So coming into the third one away at Old Trafford, not really an easy place to get the win. But anyway, the first chance did come to us. Carrasco and Trotter linking up nicely, and Brian Carrasco gets some space and just fizzes the ball over Lindegaard's bar there. So that would have been a really decent goal if that came off, but sadly it was still 0-0, and United came through here in the 24th minute. It was Wayne Rooney finds Fellaini, back to Darren Fletcher here. Fletcher rolls it out wide to Valencia to Raphael's down the right hand side. He chips the ball into the centre. There's Wayne Rooney with a free header, and he really should have scored. 25 minutes in, it was still 0-0, and Rooney should have made it 1-0 to United there. It was still 0-0, but in the 41st minute, Jack Robinson's on the ball down the left hand side, finds Ryan Gould, our young playmaker. He chips the ball over the top towards Kim Ojo, who flicks the ball on towards the run of James Henry. First time volley, there's no one in support really, but sadly saved by Lindegaard. I should have held it back and then rolled it off to Ojo, but I didn't think Ojo was up, and I thought he was still on the floor, but it was still 0-0. But in the 73rd minute here, we cleared the ball away. Frimpong takes out Fellaini. He was already booked there. I thought Frimpong was going to get sent off, but Raphael finds Valencia instead as Man United play the advantage. Valencia crosses the ball in, and sadly Kagawa gets his head to the ball and puts it past Nile, and I was really annoyed as well because I'm pretty sure I pressed circle circle about 26 times for Fabrizio to head the ball away, and he just stood there. But even so, United won, Millwall 0. But in the 87th minute, we have the ball here with Kim Ojo, rolls it through to Andy Keogh. He chips the ball over the top to Junior Stanislas. Stanislas rolls it through to Eden Nilsson, our right back up the pitch. God knows what he was doing that far up, but sadly, Lindegaard makes a great save. What a fantastic goal that would have been to possibly secure us a shock point there. But sadly, it was still 1-0, and in injury time, Wayne Rooney's onto the ball. His shot is blocked, but just look what happens there. That's just so frustrating. The auto switch just switched to the wrong man, and sadly, Nyland didn't get up quick enough to cover my mistake, and sadly, Rooney puts it in to make it United 2, Millwall 0, and that's how the game finishes. A really disappointing loss. We were expected to lose that game. I knew we'd lose the game, but at the end of the day, the goal we conceded, the second goal, was just so frustrating. So was the first one. Both of those goals could have been prevented. I guess that's what I'll say, and that's the most annoying thing about it. But we did lose. We were expected to lose, so that's just one of those things, really. But anyway, it was indeed transfer deadline day straight after the game, and as you can see here, the clubs we went in for all said no to the deals. Villa, Whitecaps, Boca Juniors, Barcelona B and Sunderland all said no, other than Barcelona B, who I didn't realise, but they actually said yes to this deal of £200,000 plus Andy Keogh for Jean-Marie Dongu. Now, the reason I decided to offer Andy Keogh is because, like I said, we wouldn't need him if we were to pick up another striker, and it will possibly make the fee less, so we wouldn't have to pay as much if we traded Andy Keogh. So it looks like we could possibly be picking up Jean-Marie Dongu, and that's good because he's a young striker at Barcelona. He's got a lot of potential, so that could be a decent signing for us, and he is very quick as well, so he could be a decent impact sub to bring off the bench. I was also looking at Jermaine Defoe and Darren Bent. I put in some bids for these two players, but I forgot that they've got really, really high wages, because these are experienced players that could probably get us a few goals, but I forgot that their wages are really, really high. So this deal, these deals were never going to get accepted, and even if they were, we wouldn't be able to afford the contracts because we just don't have the money for it. So that was the thinking behind those two deals, but I didn't check the wages and we just couldn't afford it. But anyway, we once again went back in for Gabby Bonglahor, but that deal's not going to happen, sadly, so we can't get Gabby. And Whitecaps said no to the deal for Darren Mattix. Again, he's only 23, and I had this guy in one of my old career mode series, and he was really, really decent. He's very quick, but sadly, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. The same with this guy, Sergio Araujo, is that how you say that? Or Araujo? I don't know how to pronounce these names. They're too difficult for me. But we're not going to get any of those players. It's probably not going to happen. I think the only one realistically is Darren Mattix or Jean-Marie Dongu. As you can see here, we're going in for him, but he didn't like the first contract we offered, so we told him he'd be a squad rotation player and wait and see what he says to that, because I think he could be a decent player to bring off the bench. Have Ojo kind of bully the defence for the first 75 minutes and then bring on Jean-Marie for the last 15, use his pace, see what he can do there. But we'll wait and see what happens in those deals. And again, we offer some new transfer deals for Aston Villa and Whitecaps for the services of a Bonglahor and Mattux, but it's not going to happen, to be honest. Certainly not for a Bonglahor anyway. The same with Boca Juniors. It's not going to happen. I'm offering, and I'm just hoping that for some reason they'll say yes, but even if they did accept it, we couldn't afford their wages. So that was kind of a bit of a dud deal, sadly. But anyway, Jean-Marie Dongu does indeed accept the contract. It's only £4 a week, which is quite good, plus 200 grand, of course, to Barcelona B and Andy Keogh. We decided to stall it just for the time being because we did have a few hours left on the clock, so I thought for the time being we'll stall it, wait and see if we can get a better player, but it didn't look likely. Villa did indeed accept the deal for Gabby Bonglahor, as did Whitecaps accept the deal for Darren Mattix. But as you can see here, Villa, we tried to give them 1.3 million plus Keogh, which they said was okay. But of course, because of that, we couldn't adjust the budget and we couldn't afford a Bonglahor's wages. So because of that, this deal was sadly never going to happen unless a Bonglahor wants to take a pay cut, which let's be honest, he's not going to do. We're not going to be able to pick him up. And Darren Mattix here, he's on the same amount of wages as Jean-Marie Dongu. So we offer him a contract just like we did with Dongu, a squad rotation status on £4 a week, and we'll wait and see what happens there. As Bonglahor says no to the deal, which was not a surprise because let's be honest, he was never going to take a pay cut, and so Bonglahor's not going to come in, and of course Darren Mattix accepts the contract. So we now have two choices. We can either have a Bonglahor, sorry, not a Bonglahor, I wish we could have a Bonglahor. We can either have Mattix or Jean-Marie, and I decided to accept Jean-Marie instead of Mattix because You know, I've used Matix before. He was pretty decent, but I'd imagine that Jean Marie is probably going to have more potential than Matix. You know, as good as Matix is in the air and as pacey as he is, I'd imagine that Jean Marie's got more potential, and that's the most important thing, because quite frankly, we need to build some young players that have got high potential or high enough potential, so we can stay in the Premier League for the foreseeable future. You know, otherwise we'll just pick up some players that they won't grow and they just won't be good enough for us. And you know, after 2 or 3 years, after trying to hopefully make the whole team better. But we also went back in for Seb Larsson. We had some money left over, so we put in a bid of 1.6 million for Larsson, and Sunderland accepted this bid, which was good to see. And we can also afford his wages at 20 grand a week, which is great. So we offer him a 2-year deal on important first team player status. We'll wait and see what happens there. And he does indeed accept the contract. Now, I know a lot of you will probably be sitting there thinking, no, why on earth you brought Larsson? That's such a waste of 1.6 million. But he's first team quality. Our CM area isn't even that strong, other than Liam Trotter. We don't have a good first team midfielder because Ryan Gould won't grow at 65. Frimpong is okay, but he's the type of player that just sits back. We need a decent sort of passer of the ball, someone that's good at set pieces as well, like Larsson is, and you know, someone that could probably bang in a few goals from range as well. So I think first team quality there, bringing in Seb Larsson. That, although it's a pretty big sum of money for us as a club, I think with the money we had left over, with just 2 hours on the clock, that was probably the best thing we could have done. So we bring in Larsson. Hopefully, I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys will be annoyed that I brought in Larsson, but to be honest, I think that's a good deal for us. You know, we need some first team quality. We need some experienced Premier League experienced players, and that's what we got in Seb Larsson. So hopefully you enjoyed transfer deadline day with a few signings, and that's fantastic news for us. But as always, guys, big thank you for watching today's video. Don't forget, if you can get 500 likes on this video, I will upload another episode of Career Mode later on this evening. And yeah, 500 likes for another episode of Career Mode later on this evening. Otherwise, I will see you for another episode of Career Mode tomorrow, but hopefully this evening. Let's get 500 likes.